I'm Johnny Vaughan. I've stopped brass, gang. And this is Steve Brooker, otherwise known as Mud God. I actually want to change history. He's one of a select group of licensed amateur archaeologists known as mudlarks who scour the banks of the River Thames, searching not for buried treasure, but for hidden history, and whose discoveries have changed our understanding of London forever. There's stuff in that mud that no one's ever seen before. On the Thames foreshore lies over 2,000 years of history just waiting to be discovered. And that's what does it for me. But larking's no job for those afraid to get stuck in. To wade through time, you've got to be prepared to get your hands dirty, armed with little more than a trowel and a lot of patience. No! But wait! Steve's agreed to share with me his decades of knowledge and experience. It's cold! We'll race against time and tide to get to the bottom of London's muddy history. Oh yes! Our adventures on the foreshore will propel us on historical quests that range from the sublime to the painful, to the downright disgusting. Oh man, that reeks! Oh God! Out the shed, out the shed. As we become on today's Mudmoon, our finds on the foreshore lead me to solitary confinement as I explore the Victorian idea of rehabilitation.
Massive place, always have a pot in the corner to do your business in.
Whilst I get freaked out on a tour of London's oldest surviving dungeon.
This place has a distinctly bad vibe to it.
And no pain, no gain for Steve, as we both get to grips with rough justice in the form of torture.
Oh man, that must have hurt.
Today we've come down to Millbank, which is a section on the north shore of the River Thames between Pimlico down there and Westminster up there. But back in Victorian times, it was the site of the first modern prison to be built in London. It was a phenomenally large prison, demolished in 1890. It's all disappeared, there's nothing left, but hopefully we'll find some remnants of it down there on the foreshore, where Steve Brooksy Brooks awaits us. So let's go and find him. Steve! Brooksy! Millbank was once the site of one of the country's most famous prisons. Unfortunately, today we're very much victim to the tide times. We've got around 2 hours before the river comes in, and any buried treasure is lost forever. Luckily, we won't be going it alone. Joining us today, two of the best mudmen in the business, Rock God and Mackie. Right then, Brooks, you dragged me down to Millbank. So obviously we really know it, and it's famous these days as being home to the political power brokers that run the country. But we're obviously not here for that. Why are we down here?
Millbank Prison. 16 acres up there of horrendous prison conditions. Yeah. 1816 it was built, and of course you went from Millbank Prison to Australia. You spent probably 3 months there being assessed, and if they couldn't do anything with you, off you went to Australia.
So what do you find as evidence of what these cons got up to then?
What have I had before? Now, if you look carefully, it's an engineering brick, but this actually says on it adamantine, and this one says clink. So clink as in prison. So adamantine, if you look up adamantine, it actually means hard, tough.
Yeah, tough. Unbreakable.
Yeah, impregnable sort of thing. Now, clink, you think it's the nick.
Yeah.
So adamantine clink, you think it's a prison brick.
Yes. Is it a brick that was once part of Millbank Prison?
Possible.
Possible. I think that's going to bring the viewers in. So we've got to get something a bit better than that. You can't open a show with a possible brick from a prison. Come on. No, let's get in the mud, mate. Let's get larky.
Have you never heard of Brick Love?
I've heard of Brick Love, and it's a lovely brick, Steve. I'm not disrespecting. I'm just saying I wanted something like, I don't know, manacles. Or, ball and chain. Something a bit phenomenal here, Maybe the skeleton of something.
Well, we're actually on a Victorian dump. So we are only going to get Victorian stuff. Hopefully with a...
I quite like a bit of Victoriana.
Well, you've got plenty over there, but of course it's all busted.
Yeah.
So we've got to winkle out all these bits and pieces. I've spotted something, and we're going to lose it.
Yeah.
Can you see it before it goes? It's one of those where I have to point the thing out, It's like dad teaching son.
No, I love that though, Steve.
And we haven't got long because
Because the tide's coming in.
what I've spotted has gone underwater. So if you put your lovely delicate hand in here
Yeah.
and caress that,
Oh, that's more likey. A padlock, see? You see that?
oh,
As well as being one of the last remaining manly things on Earth, Steve, the padlock, along with the shed and facial shaving, there's not many things men have got left.
we've spoken about brick love. Now we have my love, which is
You've got
padlock
padlock
love.
love, haven't you? I've heard that at your house, you've got a phenomenal amount of old padlocks.
I've probably got about 3,000 padlocks. Now
That is so random. You've got 3,000 padlocks, a shed, and you shave your face occasionally.
so we've had the brick and now we've had the padlock. Now all could be from the prison.
Yes.
But we really are scraping the barrel.
We're scraping the millbank.
With little more than an hour of low tide left, Johnny and I better get our lark on. The foreshore is scoured by 2 tides a day, and what we don't unearth today could be lost forever. So what you're looking for in this setup is, of course we've got all these stones here and everything. We've got to get down to the hard pack. Everything's going to sit on top of the hard pack. How can you tell hard pack?
Yeah.
What do you look at that? What do you notice as I scrape down?
It's hard. It suddenly goes hard.
And it's packed.
Yes.
Hence,
Hard pack. Steve, what's the jackpot down here? What would you really love to find?
there is a special type of pottery
Yeah.
that is so rare.
Yeah.
It was actually up here. The actual potteries were up here, and it comes up once in a blue moon. It's Vauxhall pottery, and I think very recently somebody found a very, very small pot.
Yeah.
And we don't normally talk about money down here
Yeah, we
because we're never going to find anything that's worth anything.
Yeah.
But this was actually worth about 28-30 grand for a little small pot because it's so rare to find anything intact.
See, this is what I love, these obscure areas of collections like that, like I've never heard of. This is Vauxhall pottery, yeah?
Yeah.
And they found a tiny thing that's worth over 20 grand.
Yeah.
But again, that's not what this show's about. We're about just enthusiasm for finding the worthless, right, Steve?
Yeah.
So let's get in there and find something worthless.
Look, my house brick.
Well, if we do find a bit of treasure, that's good, right?
Yeah, 30 grand. Think what we can do. What, you having a new car?
I'd get some knee pads and a metal detector, which you've promised me, right?
I'm going to have to move because I'm getting move up a bit. With time running out, I've left Johnny to lark on his own, while I go and see what the other mudmen have dug up. Mackie, what you had up?
Oh, bibs and bobs, mate.
So look. Oh, no, what's that there? Where'd you get that from?
Just about over there.
That is really nice. It says Super King Street, Bloomsbury Square, Holborn. On the other side, it says foreign brandy, imperial stout, Scotch and Irish whiskey. This is the first one I've ever seen. Yeah, it's a lovely little find.
It's to me, like I say, it's one man's rubbish, another man's treasure. That's my treasure.
In the days when small change wasn't in such plentiful supply, shopkeepers used to issue their very own trading tokens. These were also a handy form of advertising, as they were passed around from person to person and bore the name and address of the business that issued them.
Rock, what you had up?
Hello, mate. Few bits.
What you had?
See you like this. Look at that beast.
Lovely.
It's an Indian offering, but not just one. Number 2 as well.
I tell you, that is
Good,
wicked.
mate.
Yeah. Unbelievable, you've had 2 up.
Oh, mate, fantastic.
It just shows that the actual Thames is still being used,
Absolutely,
that
yeah.
people are still using the foreshore for Indian offerings.
Throwing statues and trinkets into rivers is a traditional Hindu way of giving thanks to their gods. The offerings are more common in the Ganges, but with a large Indian population in London, mudlarks are seeing more and more of them in the Thames. The Vauxhall pottery, that's what I really need. Put me on the map as a lark. Victorian pottery, Steve will doubtless tell me as he tosses it away. It was a great find he had as well. Aha. Who knows, this could be a brick for rival Steve's, and I'm going to find him straight away. Steve! Steve, I found a brick. Is it a genuine clink brick from the building?
Right, there's nothing inscribed on it, but I do actually believe it's the same kind of brick. Let's check that one out. So, you take the beveled edge, so the beveled edge is exactly the same.
Yeah.
So, unbelievable, you have the eye. You have what could be a brick from Millbank Prison. But then again, it might not be, and we're getting all excited.
No, but that puts me equal with you.
It
Your
does.
brick may or may not be in the prison.
Yeah.
Mudmen. Only the mudmen have no clue.
What else have you got in there?
Well, a few coins today, but bit of
Oxo.
Oxo, bit of Oxo. Nice little Inkwell.
Yeah, very nice.
Very nice. And, I believe it or not, it's Striker Light.
Aha, what is that? Every single Londoner would have had one of these. Everyone up and down the country would have had one of these. Now, if you can get it, which I don't think you will do, but if you can get it, yeah, I will give you the knee pads tomorrow.
Okay. I think it's true one of two things, this, yeah?
Yep.
I overheard you say the word striker light.
That's me, I said it, sorry.
I can't give it to you then.
No, you said
Okay, yeah.
But it's either something that people hooked on and used to be able to strike your matches on it, always a ready place to strike matches. True or false? Is that false?
False.
Or it's something that somehow a striker light, it was had a flint on it and come on, what is it then?
Close, that's close.
A flint on it and a wick, and somehow you'd always be able to light the bit of wick.
This is a bad day for me, yeah, because I never thought that you would get it. He's giving it away, so I'll give you one knee pad, because you are spot on. It's a striker light, so a bit of flint,
Yeah.
sparks onto a bit of wadding or whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
To make fire. Everybody would have had one.
So this is the first one I've ever had up. I've seen lots of pictures, but never had one myself, so yeah, it's been a good.
Okay.
So just today in the bucket,
Yeah.
I mean, it's all boring stuff. We want things that refer to the prison. But of course we have.
What's that?
This is of interest. I'm not sure what this
I
is.
know exactly what this is.
Say again.
I know what this is. This is quite a good find. It's even got the numbers on it, so it is. It's the eye-hole cover for Spur 7, cell 026, and that eye-hole cover would have gone right above it, above the door, so people can look in the cells, and that's exactly what that is. I can tell you that now.
From what prison?
From this prison here, from England. No doubt about that one. That's what that is. So that's quite a significant find. Jeff will test it out, but he'll sound right. Coming up, as the tide marches relentlessly on, we race to find evidence of the infamous Penal Institute Millbank prison before it's lost forever. Brooksy, focus on that. And Brooksy and I take our potentially prison-related finds to the bearded lord of the foreshore, Jeff Egan.
There's about 3 arguments that it's not necessarily what you said, but I think the weight of evidence is that it's not.
You made a right brick of yourself, haven't you?
You prepared the brick.
I did, yeah. Mudgod Steve Brooker and I have been scouring the Thames foreshore in search of evidence of one of London's greatest prisons, the infamous Millbank. Now, considering the size of the prison took up a staggering 16 acres, we're really confident we're going to come up with something. So far, though, all I've turned up is a bit of brick that Brooksy says definitely maybe could have possibly been from the prison. Anyway, with time running out, we need to find something a bit more concrete than a brick.
Johnny, yeah.
It's very good, Steve. Hey.
Alright, it's a boring stud.
It's a press stud.
No, it can actually be a coffin stud. These are, no, from the prison.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
What is a coffin stud, Steve?
Sometimes though we see the material inside.
Yeah.
To actually hold
They
it
wouldn't
in
have had
place.
that for prisoners. Are you nuts? It's a plain box. Steve, this is what this is. This is turned into the Mudmen speculation special.
Yeah, I can't always find good stuff.
So what I want to dig for fact, Steve. Fact.
Let's go for it then. So of course, you know, anything that catches your eye.
Yeah. Whoa.
It's only a bum.
Only a button. Steve, if I found that would be my best find today. What is it? It's got the crown on it. It's an official button, probably from, what does it say on it? Westbourne Police.
Well, that's what I actually thought it was, and that's why I'm not too interested in it at all, because you have quite a few of them.
Okay.
It says convict department.
You liar.
No, I'm not. I actually thought it was. I just thought it was a police
It
button.
actually does say convict department. We have found a remnant of, well, I say we. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, Brooksy, focus on that.
But before we get excited, yes.
Found today, at actual time,
It is from a prison, but is it from Millbank?
It's been found where a prison was, saying convict department. I don't think it's from MI6, Brooksy. I don't think it's from the House of Parliament. How about we just safely assume this is, slip it in the bucket, say no more. So I think that's in its way, that's one of the best finds we've had. Because it really is something that no longer exists. This bit of riverbank, this is everything you sort of promised me.
I come up trumps.
I think slip it in the bucket, mate. It's absolutely brilliant. I tell you what, though, it really is. They talk about a needle in a haystack, but actually, this is bigger than any haystack. You found a button on a beach. It should be the new expression. Like looking for a button on the Thames foreshore.
Bounty and bucket. We're off to Mud HQ and Grand Wizard of Mud, Jeff Egan. All you need to know about Dr. Jeff is that he's sported a full beard since he was 11. He works at the British Museum. The knowledge stored in his memory banks makes Wikipedia look like a leaflet. And he's the perfect man to end the speculation and give me and Brooksy some much-needed education. So here's our Millbank hoard. Bigger items we've got from Millbank. Less of them, but bigger. Jeff, what do you think of what we found here?
There's again a great range. Some of them may well relate to the prison, but the majority don't.
Okay.
You've got some things that are in very, very recent indeed. I mean, this past year or so,
really?
Thrown into the river.
As recent as that?
As recent as that.
Okay,
but you've shown another aspect of the river. It's not just the past that gets in. This dumping of material is constantly going in. And it's happening today, it will happen tomorrow, and it's for a variety of reasons, not just getting rid of rubbish, as you'll see from some of these items.
I've actually found a lot of the sort of more modern things, or things that I've found that I remember from my lifetime, have actually, woken up some memories, that were gone. À la recherche de ton perdu. For instance, this is the United Dairies third pint bottle of milk, which of course I used to get every single day at school.
As did I. Yes, I remember.
I think Mrs. Thatcher actually took away this, so where she was Thatcher Milk Snatcher.
That's
and
right.
This United Dairies one, I remember getting these. Do you remember these, Steve?
Yep, mine was always warm. There was always that taste.
Yes, and you used to get them, so there was like that much in the end became creamy, didn't it? You used to get those old ones. Yeah, but I forgot all about those. It's not a big find, but it brought back memories there. What else we got? Steve, over here, your bricks.
Now, of course, you've got the adamantine clinker registered brick.
Yeah.
Now, I know that, of course, Millbank, a very sort of like yellowy brick going on there, and there were thousands of them. Remember, 16 acres of these going on.
Yeah.
So, of course, we found 3 on the day. We've got one that's got nothing on it.
Yeah, which is mine.
And, of course, this one has actually got adamantine clinker registered on it as well.
I mean, do we know how old these are?
They've got to be 19th or 20th century.
So that's exactly the right time for Millbank, which of course built in 1816, demolished in 1890. All the bricks went somewhere, and this was a 16-acre site, so that's a lot of brick. What do we think?
Well, adamantine means very strong, but we need the proof that these are indeed from the prison, if that's the case.
But if I was building a clink, then I'd want my bricks to be adamantine to stop my cons from getting out. So these are strong. And you presume that is the origin of the word, the clink, right? Or is that just a sound lots made?
Clink is a particular prison in London which was called the Clink, and it gave its name, like Bridewell, to many other prisons and a lot of other places.
Okay. And what do you think there, Steve?
I still believe they are. I reckon I think about 1850 on this, 1840, so it's going to be halfway through, so maybe they were used later. But it's just that, always saying about these smoky yellow bricks in the whole of the prison. So, I actually believe on this could be flooring.
Yeah.
I've got a feeling it could be flooring, I really do. I know it's bevelled there, but I do think flooring.
Well, it's a good hypothesis, and particularly if one face is worn, then you may well be right about the flooring.
So what about this?
Well, a disc with a hole in it, and a lot of stamped letters and...
Okay, can I say, at first, I thought, that might be an eye-hole cover for a cell door.
Good idea.
Because back then we had glass in them, so it had quite a big aperture sloping down, and I really thought that was like that. But I think there's markings on it that probably contradict that, I don't know.
But there's writing on both sides, so that's rather against it being a flat put on a door.
Yeah, that's what I felt.
What do you think, Steve?
That's exactly what I felt.
I remember somebody on the foreshore was convinced that was a spy hole.
It's the eye-hole cover for Spur 7, cell 026, and that eye-hole cover would have gone right above it, above the door, so people could look in the cells, and that's exactly what that is.
All very well piling up to Jeff now, isn't it? Now you know that it's not.
Listen,
No.
You made a right brick of yourself, Owen.
You prepared the brick.
I did, yeah.
And then now, all of a sudden, you find out that that's not a spy hole.
Yeah, I know it's not, but it did really look like it at the time, and it was a disc down there, and I did get caught up in it. Okay, what else have we got that you like, Jeff?
Well, there's this glass bottle here. It's an ink bottle because it's got two grooves here on which you rested your pen when you were...
Oh, that's great, isn't it?
When you had it closed.
Yeah. So how old? That's Victorian, you say?
Victorian, late Victorian. It's a very crude bottle for that date, but that's all that was needed to contain your ink on your table.
So, is there anything here, Jeff, that is definitively, undeniably, indisputably from the prison?
Well, this object here, this is a button, of course, a uniform button, and it's pretty definitive because it says Convict Department, and the crown,
yes,
and it's got the crown of Queen Victoria. So that says it all. That's got to be from the prison.
It's such a small trophy, but let's hold it aloft in triumph, Steve. Well, actually, it's yours to hold up, Steve. I present.
That's the point to you.
That's it. Silly fingers.
Thank you.
No, well done, chaps.
There we go. Madman. So, Steve, does that make you feel good then, actually, unearthing that? Because it was a hell of a find, that. That's a tiny thing to find on a beach, and it actually is something from Millbank Prison, which really was our mission in this show. So, do you feel good about that? You must do.
Yeah, I feel good, but I also want to run with the brick as well. I feel good on both things.
But why does the brick excite you more than that?
Because the amount of them that are down there, yes, I know what that is, and yes, that's from the prison, but
it's a shed out of them.
I may do. I may floor the shed with the brick from the prison.
Brilliant, nice one. I like that.
Yeah, I'm happy with that because, of course, we have the provenance of it.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? It really is.
It's good.
And I was there when you found it. That's an exciting thing.
Yeah, we were partners on that one.
Yeah, we were. It was very, very exciting. It really was. Our finds from the foreshore have certainly left us to think all things click. So, it's time for Brooksy and me to go our separate ways and delve deeper into the world of crime and punishment. I'm standing outside the Central Criminal Court, the Old Bailey in London. They've been sending people down from here since 1584. Now, obviously today, you've got the choices. We've got open prisons, semi-open prisons, local prisons, high security prisons, maximum security prisons. There's a range of custodial establishments. But back in the day, where did they send them down to? That's what I intend to find out. I'm meeting up with author and former prison officer Edward Marston on the old site of Newgate Prison. Where did the concept of prisons actually come from? When did prisons start?
Well, the first record we have of a prison was Alfred the Great, so you're going back to the 9th century.
Yeah.
That was in Wessex. It's actually in his law code. But the prison in medieval times weren't the prisons that we know. They weren't places where you held people for punishment. You were held there before the punishment was given.
Oh, no. Tell me a little about then what happened to Newgate Prison, because Newgate Prison and the Old Bailey used to literally be the prison there, Old Bailey there, and they had that relation. It's not hard to see the relationship between the two.
There are three Newgates. There's the medieval prison, which is the one that Dick Whittington knew, and he was so shocked by the way that people were treated there, he left a bequest to improve it. It was burned down in 1666 with the Great Fire of London, and it was rebuilt as one of the finest buildings in the city from outside. You have this magnificent portico and a series of wonderful statues. And people would stop and look up in wonder, but of course inside the conditions were appalling.
During the 700 years of its illustrious life, Newgate Prison housed such notable inmates as Daniel Defoe, Casanova and Captain Kidd.
The prisoners couldn't see the lights outside, they were stuck inside.
That's the whole point.
Absolutely, with dreadful conditions, appalling food, kept under the thumb of the jailers, and milked for every penny they got. And then if you go to the next century, in 1780 it was burned down again, so it was rebuilt yet again.
After the break, I visit a damp, dingy, rat-infested dungeon. Brilliant. This place has a distinctly bad vibe to it.
And I investigate the evolution of the capital's penal institutions.
Steve Brooker and I have trawled the foreshore for evidence of the notorious Millbank Prison. Beardy genius Jeff Egan then cast his eagle eye over our finds, with mixed results. My spyglass from the prison turned out to be anything but.
I think the weight of evidence is that it's not.
Steve's bricks weren't quite concrete.
You made a right brick of yourself,
You prepared the brick.
I did, yeah.
But our button was a dead cert and has led us on a quest to trace the penal history of London.
It's got the crown of Queen Victoria, so that's visible. That's got to be from the prison.
Steve, the crown, yes. I'm with ex-prison guard Edward Marston, who's told me all about the squalid conditions prisoners suffered in the notorious Newgate prison. Luckily, some of the last remaining cells are in the basement of what is now a boozer. Tough life being a dedicated mudman.
Right. Come on through this way. I think we might see one of the cells down here. There's one over here, look. See how we're getting on.
Yeah, but I've got to tell you, this place has a distinctly bad vibe to it. I would think appalling things have happened in here. What is this place, and why have you brought me here? I would say under the pretense of a swift half.
The swift half comes later.
Okay.
We are underneath of what used to be Newgate Prison.
Okay.
And you can see immediately we have a problem with the smell. It's damp down here.
Oh, it's horrendous.
This floor has some kind of stone. There wouldn't have been that. They would have had just an earthenware thing. You'd have had rats. You'd have had pieces of food. And of course, we don't want to go into the sanitary arrangements, but they were fairly basic.
I've got to think, if we saw a rat now in here, it would actually look cheery.
This would have been the holding centre prior to the execution. So they would have endured these awful conditions with dreadful people. Think of the noise factor, if nothing else, in a confined space like this, with the rats running around and appalling food, dreadful treatment, the damp and all the rest of it, and that's the last memory they have before they go off to be hanged.
So the guys who ran the prison, I mean, they were a really big earner, and like in, so many countries still around the world, because they're in such a good position for sort of corruption and bribery. They are the link with the outside world, and you really are desperate to improve your lot.
When you came into prison, you had to pay, because that was where the income came for the jailer, and they would milk you of every penny. If you wanted good accommodation, you had to pay. If you wanted a separate cubicle, if you wanted proper food brought in, if you wanted wine and so on, it would cost a lot of money. If you had plenty of money, it might even be possible to bring in your girlfriend or a prostitute or something. But for most people who had no money, they would come down into a place like this, an area like this. We're talking about what? 8 or 9 people would easily get in here. And if one person died, it might be quite a long while before they discovered it. So it really was a horrendous place to come into. There was nothing good to be said about it.
This is the last remnant. This was the cellar of Newgate Prison, so it's sort of straddling a road from the Old Bailey to here. What happened to the rest of it then?
Well, it got less and less important as a prison, because in the Victorian period they began to have a centralised system of convict prisons, and more people went down to the big ones like Millbank and Pentonville and so on, and then someone came along and built a pub on top of it, and you and I eventually might even get up there.
Well, this is a horrible place. The pub isn't. Let's go there.
Righto.
Johnny made me off to the pub. Well, I've come to see how prisons evolved after Newgate.
Johnny wasn't too impressed by my Millbank brick find, but he was convinced of my Woodlands button. Get it? Convinced? Convinced? Get it? Oh, don't bother.
Nothing remains today of the original Millbank prison, so I've come to the 19th century D-wing of Oxford Castle's prison. With me is Drew Gray, senior lecturer in the history of crime. He's agreed to help me unlock the life of a prisoner in the 1800s.
Millbank was the first purpose-built prison in England, built on the banks of the Thames, built upon the ideas of the prison reformer Jeremy Bentham, built as a place to house prisoners for the first time, prisoners who were actually being housed as a form of punishment, rather than as just somewhere to hold them until they were put on trial or executed or transported.
So what was Bentham's plan for Millbank?
Well, Bentham's idea was to have a building built as a pentagon with 5 parts, all radiating out. So you've got corridors and an observation tower, as if it's a spider's web, to control everything around you from the centre. It's separate cells, built to house up to 1,000 people, but one man in one cell and one woman in one cell, bringing a sense of reform to these individuals.
What do you mean by reform?
People like Bentham believed that you could change the way people, change a criminal's outlook. A sense that by making them think about the crime that they've stayed committed, by making them think about religion and the impact of doing wrong, the idea of sinning. You can actually bring people back into society as reformed characters.
The idea of rehabilitating prisoners may be taken for granted now, but at the time it was revolutionary. Becoming model citizens required isolating the prisoners from every influence around them, starting with their living quarters. It was quite quaint. Massive palatial. I would have thought you'd have the plasma down that side. Power shower.
I'm afraid not, Steve. Instead of a power shower, you'd have a pot in the corner to do your business in. You'd have no form of entertainment. The only thing you might have is the Bible to read. You'd spend 23 out of 24 hours in this space on your own.
So we're stuck in here for 23 hours a day. I can straddle this in one. That's how small it is. Being a bit on the old toilet side as well, I'm feeling really claustrophobic. I would go mental in this place. You know, did people go mental?
It's certainly contributed to widespread what we would call mental illness throughout the prison. And that whole process of not being able to communicate with anybody, that is a very basic human need. And that's what this isolation process does to people. It's supposed to bring about a crisis of conscience and reform them, but in many respects what it does is it drives them insane. And if that's not enough, Steve, they had other ways to break your spirit in a place like this. Let me show you.
Isolation wasn't the only downside of Millbank. Bentham's model also saw monotonous and hard physical labour as the path to redemption.
You're wearing the hood, Steve, because you're out of your cell and you need to be segregated from the other prisoners. Prisoners should have no communication with each other. They shouldn't even be able to see each other. And again, they take you to the treadmill and it's a monotonous up and down action which you'd be set at all day long.
Has Johnny put you up to this?
Okay, Steve, so we've worn out your legs on the treadwheel and now we're wearing out your arms on the crank. How are you finding that?
I'm still loving every minute of it. My legs have gone and now you've got me on this thing and my arm's aching already. I haven't only just started.
Yes, you have only just started. We're going to get you to do that 12,000 times a day. See how you feel after that. The reformers of the early 19th century were quite concerned about the sorts of work that prisoners should do when they were in jail. So what we have to get prisoners doing is pointless things. So like the crank, like the treadwheel, like the capstan, all forms of punishment where all you can really do all day is think about the crime that you've committed. This is all, in the reformers' eyes, what will push you into being a better person, into being a useful member of society.
I'm knackered, to say the least. Reform, I can't see how that can be reform. So with Bentham, did this match up to his ideals?
No, I mean, Millbank was a failure in so many ways. It used to flood tremendously, being by the Thames. It had terrible problems with disease. It had outbreaks of cholera and all sorts of dysentery and other sorts of unpleasant Victorian diseases. Eventually it's abandoned in the 1890s and it's demolished. And it might have taken them years and years to build Millbank and £500,000 to build it. But it takes a matter of a few weeks to knock it all down.
Bentham's idea for Millbank as a reformatory utopia was never fully realised. His ideas were noble, but fundamentally flawed. The isolation and monotony caused insanity, and not rehabilitation. Hold tight, Drew. Have you ever thought about a mudlarking?
That's a really good idea.
It's a great hobby.
After the break, spiritual successor to the Tower of London torturers, Geoffrey Abbott, shows me how to use torture to extract a confession from even the most hardened of violent criminals. Or in our case, Brooksy. Armed with a team of specialist mudmen and teamed up with self-styled mud god Steve Brooker, we're boldly going on a mission through history. Battling the cold, the sewage, and the odd angry seagull, we're sifting through the centuries of Londoners' discarded tomes and tokens, piecing together a hidden history of a capital city. It's a story told by its river, the mighty Thames. Against the clock and the tides, we've poked, prodded, scraped, and our precious artefacts have certainly left us to think all things click. Dungeon life was very brutal, but it was luxury compared with what went before. There are quite a few definitions of what torture actually is in the dictionary, but number one nearly always seems to be the infliction of serious physical pain as a means of punishment or coercion. Now, in Britain, obviously, there was a real torture culture. Some of it was brutal, some of it was very public, but nearly always it was very, very humiliating. Hence, Steve. You all right, Steve? Now,
Yeah, ecstatic.
Steve, as you can see, is in a pillory, not a stocks, as it's often mistakenly called, but this is a pillory, as you can see. The pillory is the big brother of the stocks, which only restrained your feet. Most people know that fruit and veg were thrown at the captive, but dead cats and dogs were also favourite of angry mobs. What really does is put in fun in public humiliation. So let's meet today's torturers. Come on down! You see that man there with the shiny head? Well, I want you to try and get that sponge onto that head. Oh, nearly got
See, Johnny, it meant to be 50-50 on these quests.
Oh, it was a beauty! Natural born torturer! Geoffrey Abbott is a former yeoman of the Tower of London. In years gone by, these were the guys that tortured guests on Her Majesty's pleasure. He's also written several books on the subject. What he doesn't know about pain isn't worth knowing. Cheers. Can I just say, hang on a second, Steve. We'll be back in a minute. We've had a lot of torturers here today. That was some of the best first-time torturing we've had all day. That was brilliant torturing. Really was good. You showed real flair.
Torture?
Yeah.
That's not torture.
What was that then?
That's just public entertainment.
Well, what's torture?
Come with me.
Yeah. Steve, grab your pillory. We're going. Come on. Come on, Steve. Through the gap. See it as a fashion accessory. Jeffries agreed to take me and Brooksy back 500 years and show us some secrets of the torture trade in the bowels of the Clink Museum, built on the site of the original Clink prison dating back to 1151.
Jeffrey, what was the point of torture?
If you can't get the truth by any other means or a confession, physical persuasion.
So, Jeff, what would you say was the golden age of torture?
The Tudor period.
The home of torture in Tudor England was undoubtedly the Tower of London. Over the centuries, it broke the bones and spirits of figures such as Guy Fawkes and Anne Askew. Just the sight of the tower's infamous torture chamber was often enough to get a confession.
The first steps were to bring the suspect down to the torture chamber and show him the influence of torture. Let him look at them.
It's the thought of physical torture, first of all, which was level one of torture. It's mental torture. We'll show him what could physically happen
if he resisted.
What crimes would you have to commit to actually be tortured?
High treason. You know what high treason is?
No, but you're going to tell me, hopefully.
The major part of it is seeking to remove the sovereign from the throne. Low treason is when a wife conspires to get rid of her husband, or a servant conspires to get rid of his master, the head of the family.
High treason didn't just mean an attempt to kill the head of state. It could be applied for crimes as seemingly innocuous as producing literature that was deemed anti-British. So basically, write a book saying you didn't like a decision the king had made, and you could be tortured to death. Yeah, we think we've got it bad. Say if hypothetically Steve, sort of liked the idea of my house and my family because his had got, say, cross with him, and Steve, say, started hypothetically talking to like one of the cameramen here or our producer about how he could perhaps, do me in, then already he'd be on the road to low treason and perhaps a bit of torture. Would that be enough for me to say, start on a bit of torture with, say, hypothetically, an expert that might happen to be here? It's hypothetical, Steve.
I can see where this is going.
I just want to clear it up, is all I'm saying. It's better to get rid of doubt.
Go on.
Why do I always let myself get talked into this?
Come on, Jeff. Let's talk to him.
Petty or low treason usually refers to the murder of the head of a household, but it can also be applied to a servant who had forged his master's seal or indeed committed adultery with his master's wife or daughter. But since Steve hasn't gone that far, we've toned down our first torture. Known simply as the chair, it's normally covered in hundreds of sharp metal spikes, and once strapped in, the victim would be impaled slowly using their own body weight.
So, as you can see, Steve is hypothetically now accused of low treason. He's now factually sitting in the torture chair. But Jeff, you'd like to just lift this over?
I think so.
And we can sort of begin. Now again,
short back and sides.
This is short back and sides. And we would have probably, for a couple of tortures, had a bit of banter like that.
Exactly.
We would have enjoyed that, wouldn't we?
Of course.
Say, we would have gone, tooth extraction, sir. We would have done for it, and probably taken one out for a bit of a laugh, you know, just throwing it in there.
Here's a nice one we've got today.
Yeah, yes, it certainly is, Jeff. Oh, it's going to be a busy morning. And what happens, Jeff, if I'm going like this? Say I'm going, why are you trying to remove me as head of the family? Why? Why? How long could someone survive with the spikes going up there? I mean, presumably they pass out eventually.
Eventually, yes. It wouldn't kill him, though.
A victim could survive on the chair for over a day, as no spike would actually puncture any vital organs, and wounds would be closed by the spikes themselves, delaying the loss of blood.
So, with Steve being strangulated in our torture chair and literally sitting on the edge of his seat, let's go to our next instrument of torture.
There were many different methods of torture devised and used at the tower. Victims would be crushed, stretched, whipped, burnt, weighed down and strung up. Although some people resisted, one thing is for certain. It was just a matter of time before a confession was gained.
How long would it generally take before someone cracked through torture and confessed to everything?
You can't tell, because some people got more resistance. They are more determined to cling onto their principles and refuse to give up, no matter what the cost. They're prepared to die for their faith or for what they believe in.
And what instrument of torture really cracked people the quickest?
Skeffington's Gyves.
Oh, it sounds great. It sounds like a 50s dance craze. But what was it?
Because the prisoner, after being racked...
Jeff! Hang on 1 second. Shut up! It's hurting. How much do you weigh? Sorry, Jeff.
It meant that the poor crippled victim of the rack had to be supported across the green back to the tower in which he'd been imprisoned, because the rack was too cumbersome to take up the spiral stairway to the prisoner.
Skeffington's Gyves, also known as the scavenger's daughter, was basically a highly portable method of torture. It compressed the victims into an excruciating hunched position until he gave in or his back was broken.
And the pressure continued until blood exuded from other bodily orifices.
Oh, man, that must... Sorry, Steve. Man, that must have hurt.
Now, you might think I'm standing on Steve for fun, and you'd be right. But actually, this isn't too far from the truth. In Tudor times, they used the well-known ye olde crushing a man with heavy rocks piled on a board technique. It was more elegantly known as peine forte et dure, or in other words, a firm and lasting punishment.
Steve, I know you've got a question there.
So, Jeff, how long could somebody actually last like this?
How long would he have survived something like this? Is that what you wanted to know, Steve?
Yes.
Well, I can do it. Go on.
It would depend on the man's age and physique and determination, because the weights would be continually added.
Okay.
Crushing his chest, breaking his ribs, and that would continue until he decided to plead guilty or not guilty. Now, the problem was, if he pleaded guilty, his valuables, his belongings, his house would be forfeit to the crown.
Are you listening to this, Steve? All your mudlarking stuff, all your shed. You're not piping up about your shed now, are you?
So he would be determined to stick it out as long as he possibly could.
Okay.
But mostly death overtook him.
torture sometimes took place even after a prisoner's fate was decided, as without a signed confession, the Crown couldn't seize his assets.
So I think Steve has probably endured enough here. So let's take him on to our next instrument of torture. What'd you say, Steve?
I confess!
Oh, Jeff. A confession. I knew it.
Wonderful. For those who confessed to treason, there was only one outcome. Death.
So, Jeff, Steve has confessed to treason. The execution's very much in the bag. We've chosen to go with the axe and block, very old school. What are some of the other methods, and who got executed in which way?
You were hanged, drawn and quartered with the most appalling way to go. In front of the entire crowd, you were only half-hanged and cut down while still alive. You were then drawn. Your stomach was slit open by the executioner wielding his slitting knife.
Oh, yeah.
His viscera, his innards, would be torn out and he would be castrated.
What else? What about women?
Women found guilty of high treason, they were burnt at the stake.
It was forbidden for women to be hung, drawn and quartered on the grounds of public decency. Not because people would be offended by the sight of a woman being strung up, having her insides torn out and being chopped up into little pieces, because they didn't want to see her naked. That was vulgar.
So beheading was mainly reserved for nobility, was it?
Exactly. That is because the axe is the nearest thing to be killed by cold steel, as if in battle on the battlefield.
Okay.
It was a privilege.
Was beheading a quick and painless death, was it?
If it was achieved by one stroke, yes, but that very rarely happened. Don't forget that the axe doesn't cut, it is a chopper.
Right.
It doesn't slice as a sword does, that crushes its way through bone and muscle, and therefore it's an appallingly savage weapon to use. If the victor was lucky, one stroke, but more often than not, several, before the head was completely severed from the body. Not always the executioner's fault, because he couldn't clearly see the back of the neck.
Yes, okay. I mean, I can really clearly see Steve's neck here. Just take back Steve's stuff. Steve, can you just lean forward a little bit there? You comfy?
No.
Okay, but just Steve, I'm not going to do anything, Steve. I'll just say this, so just put this stuff. I mean, the back of the neck seems so small, doesn't it? Thought a second there, Steve.
And don't forget,
This is not funny, that's really sharp.
you've got these tens of thousands of people
Yes.
watching. It's like being at a golf tournament.
Yes, and they're watching me, and I've got the axe, Jeff.
Get your foot off my
And
hand.
his neck is exposed.
Take it too far this
I
time.
mean, really, all I have to do in this situation is literally, I mean, I could just bring that up, almost like that, couldn't I? And I just bring it down really sharply. The neck looks so thin and fragile. It's so tempting. I've worked with him for a few weeks now, and he keeps winding me up about the shed and the knee pads, and frankly, the temptation is really there. I could literally just... Steve, do you know something? I really question your commitment to the show there. You know, you really wimped out. You wimped out.
Commitment, yes.
You wimped out.